So, Avram, thank you very much for joining us here at the Restart IL Economy, this important conference we're having here today in London. And thank you for Fladgate for being partners in this important enterprise. So, why don't we start with telling us a bit about Fladgate and about yourself, what you do there, and your experience.
Before that, say that, I want to say it's a pleasure to be here today. I felt we at Fladgate felt it was very important to show support. It's good business, but it's more important to show support. And we hope that it's a very successful conference and the outcome is positive for all the companies who participated. I'm an American Israeli English lawyer, studied Hebrew U, qualified in Israel, did articles on the Supreme Court of Israel, a few months with Barak, but mostly with the Judge Basically, I qualified in America. I ended up here in London, and I've been practicing here since 1988, and I joined Fladgate in 1989, so I've been here a while. Fladgate, when I joined, was a very old English firm. It was founded in 1762, but at the time I came around, it had a very large entrepreneurial Jewish base. The partners, and it had about 25 partners. And I accidentally found myself forming an Israel practice back in the first year I was there. It's a story in itself. A student who had been at Fladgate as a student 2 years before was a law student in Israel. He had been asked by a friend of his who was a trainee somewhere that his boss needed. Anyways, they ended up at Fladgate, and we acted for the three large Israeli oil companies, petroleum companies, Delek, Paz, and Sonol, all together. And that was our first Israeli client. And I found out that it was a good way I enjoyed dealing with Israelis. I felt a bit of Zionism, but also it was good business because I had something that others didn't have. I understood the law in Israel, and I could speak Hebrew, and it just took off. And
today you would say that's a big part of your business, or
no,
of your expertise, of something that you can bring forward to your clients?
I would say that anywhere in a given day, from 30% to 70% of the business I do has an Israeli connection. I don't work alone. We have an Israeli partner who's in the property department. I have a partner in the corporate department called Dorit, who does mainly capital markets, a lot for Israeli companies. So it's not meaning me, it's Fladgate has a good Israel presence at the moment.
Excellent. So that gives you a very good perspective, and maybe sharing with us, what are the challenges that Israeli companies have doing business here in the UK these days, and especially through the perspective they want to set up operations here?
Well, let me start out that the biggest problem they have has nothing to do with being a lawyer or law. It's cultural. It's cultural. Most people who come here to do business speak in excellent English. It's not a language barrier. It is going into a meeting and missing the subtext. So they come out of a meeting and you're in a meeting with them, you come out, you know that they've been brushed off. And they walk out thinking it was the most fantastic meeting. The people on the other side were fascinated. There's business to be done here. And you have to say, actually, no, you're missing the point. That's not, but don't listen to the words, listen to the intonation. Very interesting doesn't mean, yes, I want to do it.
Yes.
And I think that is probably more than anything else, the cultural, a small story, if I may. Some Israelis came to do business here. They were very sophisticated, and they were purchasing a very large portfolio, a company with a large property portfolio. And the people who were selling it had the way they acted, the way they spoke was, I'd say, upper middle class British. So their accents were the right, and they wore their suits correctly, but they were fraudsters. And they had these people been dealing with people from the market, they would have been on their nerves, but they were dealing with British gentlemen and gentlewomen, as so happened, and they let their guard down. And I said, look, you're being cheated. They said, no, we can't be being cheated. We're dealing with honorable British people, impossible. So again, cultural. So keep an eye out for that. And the legal front, funnily enough, it's quite, there are many things they'll recognize. Employment law they'll recognize, but they have to go through the hoops. They can't just jump in. So there's very detailed employment law here. So they have to be very careful when they hire employees or they're stuck with them. They can't forget about immigration. They want to bring in senior people. Because they come and go without a visa. I mean, you get your visa stamped at the airport, it doesn't occur to them. Or if it does occur, they don't give it the weight they need to give, how long the process takes, how expensive it is. They have to remember, again, this is cultural and legal. In Israel, anybody who does business knows that within the legal system, pervasive in the legal system, is the legal requirement to act in good faith. It is an obligation in law. I'm not saying people necessarily do it. They recognize it for what it is, and if they find somebody not good faith, they know we can go to court. There's no good faith principle in English law.
Really?
It is a 90. It's coming in slightly at the edges, but generally there is no good faith obligation in English law. Don't assume it's there, and don't forget that's a major, major difference.
Absolutely. So there are all kinds of different things that
Yes.
someone with your expertise in your office that knows both sides of the bridge, so to speak, can guide companies through. So what sort of investment opportunities do you believe there are today? This whole conference is about encouraging investments in Israeli companies, and you're here for a reason. What are the opportunities out there?
So I would say on different levels. So it depends on the size of the company. I actually think that for an Israeli company, which is larger than the startup, but not usually larger, there is an opportunity to go to the capital markets. There are 3 markets here, at 3 levels, and very small companies can actually begin coming to the market. There's an expense, and you have to take a deep breath and say, if it doesn't work, I'm out of pocket. But there is an interest in Israeli tech in the UK, and the markets here are hungry for companies. I'm not saying because they're getting bashed from the Americans. They're getting bashed from the Americans, but they can offer something. The first company I ever listed here came here, and not to New York, even though they had an opportunity, because as the chief executive at the time said, I do not want to be a NASDAQ orphan. Mm-hmm. NASDAQ orphan is a company that gets listed, raises money, and never gets heard of again. They never raise any money. Their share price goes down. There's no reporting. There's no interest. Here, it can be a different story. Many Israeli companies come over the years were too small. I don't want to oversell it.
Yeah.
If you're just starting out and you don't have sales and you have a dream, it's not right for you yet. That's one thing. Also, private equity is huge here, and there's an appetite for tech. There's a huge appetite for tech, and I know 3 or 4 private equity firms who go out scouting in Israel from here.
Excellent. And you can make that connection.
To be honest, it's my partner, Howard Watt, more than
So,
I
of course
can.
you can make
But
that
Fladgate, I'm not Superman.
no,
I do what I know how to do. But yes, we at Fladgate know we have, again, all these people are going to come and say, oh, where's the money? You have to be the right company for the right person. 1 in 5 are going to make it. But there are opportunities here. There are private equity companies who are interested. There are smaller brokers on the A market and the other markets. And if you're slightly bigger, the official list, the main list is also, that's for larger companies. I think that's 5 years down the line for most of the companies here today.
Well, you have to start somewhere.
Yes, but the AIM company and the smaller market, there's a different market here that's also just starting out. But we at Fladgate, I think we act for the second most number of companies on that little
That level. Yeah. Excellent. That's very interesting. Thank you again for being part of this conference and for sharing and for all the work that you're doing.
Thank you for the invite. We're very pleased to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much.